Hi, I'm Michelle Reynolds, and I'm presenting to you my physical education curriculum for Milford Central School District, 6th grade level. First, I'd like to talk about the Milford demographics and the culture of Milford. As of the census of 2015, there were 2,938 people in the town of Milford, with 1,207 households and 813 families residing there. The population density was 63.7 people per square mile, with the racial makeup of the town being 97.52% white, 0.71% black or African American, 0.31% Native American, 0.58% Asian, 0.10% from other races, and 0.78% from two or more races. Hispanic or Latino of any race were 1.91% of the population. It's in a very rural community. There are a lot of farms. Families run the farms there in the community. And the town of Milford is situated between Cooperstown and Oneonta. And it has a rich offering of cultural, recreational, and historic resources that cause the population to swell with travelers in the high season. And it is mainly due to the Cooperstown Baseball Hall of Fame, where they have the inductions every year, and then they also hold tournaments all summer long with youth who play baseball from all over the United States. They come, so their population swells greatly in the summertime. The recognition of the economic value and the protection and preservation of natural resources drives the robust pace to update existing regulations within the town. And the philosophy statement for the development of this curriculum is first to provide students with opportunities for self-discovery, is providing the opportunity to study things that are meaningful and significant to one's life and interests. Developing a curriculum around what students can relate to will motivate and create a passion for learning. One way to take learning in a direction that is identifiable to students' interests is to create discussion about the lessons and units that are being taught. Allowing this, students will generate ideas and set goals that make for better, more enjoyable activities, and when students have a part in the curriculum, they are motivated to work hard and master the skills necessary to reach their goals. This will come through a wide variety of physical activities, fitness, individual and team sports skills. And so for our grade level goals, the way that the goals are determined is first by the national standards. There are 5 national standards, and those assist in meeting the grade level outcome goals, or developing the grade level outcome goals, The grade level outcome goals reach all the domains that are necessary for physical education: the psychomotor domain, the cognitive domain, and the affective domain. And some examples of the grade level outcomes here created by the standards for the 6th grade level would be: 1, demonstrates dribbling with dominant hand using a change of speed and direction and a variety of practice tasks. Creates open space by using locomotor movements, walking, running, jumping, and landing in combination with movement, and varying pathways, changing of speed, direction, or pace. And as you can see, both of those are the first one is from standard 1 for 6th grade level, and the other is for standard 2 for the 6th grade level. And so these are some grade level goals that are needing to be reached. And how we unpack those grade level outcomes is first by the standard. The physically literate individual applies knowledge of concepts, principles, strategies, and tactics related to movement and performance. And then from there, we come up with the grade level outcome goals. The national standards, Shape America, comes up with the grade level outcome goals, which is creates open space by using locomotor movements, for example, walking, running, jumping, and landing in combination with movements such as varying pathways, changing of speed, direction, or pace. And so how we break down or unpack this grade level outcome is we find the specific things that we want those students to achieve within that grade level outcome, and then we break it down of how we are going to get the students to meeting that goal. And so as you can see here in the blue category, which on that grade level outcome, the blue also matches up with what's going to be done by the student to achieve that goal. So creates an open space using running with varying pathways. And so the students would need to be able to define routes or pathways used by wide receivers taken in football. They would research those routes or pathways used in football. They would identify when the routes or pathways are used in football. They would then practice those routes using various pathways with video analysis. They would analyze performance and running the different routes. And then they would also apply the feedback that they've received either by peer assessment or teacher observation or video analysis. They would take that feedback to improve performance of the running routes in football. And so once, as we're unpacking the standards within those, the domains are then reached. So first, for an example, would be the psychomotor domain. Students are practicing running routes while changing directions with defense. With that practice, they are doing a lot of movements, and that touches on the psychomotor domain. Then for the cognitive domain, students would need to define the routes or pathways wide receivers are taking in football and why they change direction. There would be some type of cognitive assessment that would be required for the students to define that, and that's touching on the cognitive domain. And then for the affective domain, students are getting feedback or peer assessments, and they're having to work with each other and give each other positive feedback and some constructive criticism, and that would allow for students to then improve their performance in whatever task they have at hand. And that's how the affective domain is reached. And so an example of an assessment would be for cognitive assessment, just as I was talking about before, a formative assessment for cognitive. This is an assessment to test the abilities involved in thinking, reasoning, perception, memory, verbal, and mathematical ability, and problem solving. The questioning is usually designed to understand the use of the mental processes to solve skill-related cues or activity sports or sport knowledge. This relates to the curricular assessment by providing an evaluation for the program effectiveness. And an example of this type of lesson assessment would be Plickers. With this cognitive assessment, there is evidence of student learning or comprehension. And so what Plickers is each student is assigned a Plicker which has a letter A, B, C, or D. Students are then asked a question by me, the teacher. They would turn their Plicker to what they feel is the correct answer, and then I would scan it with my mobile device, and it gives me instant feedback as to what the students, where their understanding is on that topic, and it also gives the students instant feedback as to whether or not they answered the question correctly. And so this is just an example of what that would look like if I was to scan the Plicker answers for the class, and it would show who the understanding and percentage of who got it correct. And so that would give me an assessment of if I need to make adjustments in the lesson, and then also teach that specific skill more in depth. And so the scope and sequence for the curriculum, the scope and sequence is the skill, concept, and activity over time throughout the school year. And an example for here, I put the elementary physical education grades 3 through 5. Could also be used for grades 6 as well. It's designed based on 2 or 3 days a week program with 45-minute lessons. And I just put the first 12 weeks of the school year. You can see there, here's the time frame that each concept or skill would be needed to be developed within that time frame. And then you can see this, for example, establishing playground environment and classroom environment. And so the activities for that would be a tour of the facilities and then teaching the students playground games within that first week. So when they are out on the playground, they are able to play games and not just stand around, but they're actually able to get in more physical activity and have games where they're able to play with their classmates. And so then week 2 and 3 would be establishing learning environment of cooperative games, working together, problem solving, critical thinking, interacting with others, and personal and social responsibility. And then here are some games that would help to achieve the concept or skills that are wanting to be developed within those next 2 weeks, and then so on, as you can see. And so that would give me, the teacher, an idea of the skills and concepts that I'm wanting the students reach within the grade level outcomes by the national standards. And then these are activities that will help me and help the students to get to reaching those grade level outcomes. So for the program evaluation, it measures the effectiveness of the current PE program. It looks at trends to determine whether new programs should be added. Evaluations also can be used to justify the existence of the program. The purpose of the evaluation will determine the data sources used for the process. And then summative evaluations are ways to measure the success of a project or plan and determine what has been accomplished. It is used for accountability purposes, and external evaluators, such as an administrator, would be able to use the information as a summative evaluation to determine whether the content is worth doing, and that would be done yearly. And then a formative evaluation, it takes place during the activity. It should be ongoing throughout the year. It can be used to help redirect time, money, and personnel and other resources as the project is in progress, or as a form of continual evaluation to determine where the curriculum currently is and where it is headed. The formative evaluations are proactive because they seek information that will help make changes while there is still time to redirect efforts. An example of that would be the cognitive assessment that I showed you in a previous slide. That is a type of formative assessment, where the summative assessments should be done after the school year is completed, when you're looking at the program as a whole and how many how many outcomes were reached throughout the curriculum. And so that way you can assess to make changes. And so types of quality evaluation instruments that can be used are NASB publications that are self-study, and the PECAT, which is the Physical Education Curriculum Analysis tool, which is available for the program evaluation. And then the references that I used in coming up with this curriculum project is the National Success and Grade Level Outcomes for K through 12 by Human Kinetics, and Shape America by Shape America. There's then a book that I use is Standard-Based Physical Education Curriculum Development by Jacqueline Lunn, Deborah Tannenhill, Jones Bartlett Learning published the book. I also use another book, School-Wide Physical Activity, A Comprehensive Guide to Designing and Conducting Programs by Judith Rink, Tina Hall, and Lori Williams. And then also the 2016 U.S. Report Card on Physical Activity for Children and Youth, National Physical Activity Plan is who put that together. And so I use those references to develop this curriculum project.